The Forex markets are rather mixed at the moment. There was no follow-through selling in the Japanese yen since the earlier sell-off this week, and major yen crosses were bounded in consolidation range. The euro is also sitting in tight range around 1.33 against the dollar for the moment, while sterling is generally soft. US dollar Canadian dollar jumped to a 7-month high of weakness in the Canadian dollar. New Zealand dollar was mildly softer in the Asian session, but the Australian dollar recovered mildly in tight range. As for today, German ZEW will be released in the European session and is expected to show an improvement in economic sentiments. Canadian international securities transactions and wholesale sales and the US NAHB housing market index would be released in the US session. In a speech at the European Parliament yesterday, the European Central Bank President Draghi addressed the competitive depreciation of foreign exchange rates. He stated that most of the exchange rate movements that we have seen were not explicitly targeted. They were the result of domestic macroeconomic policies meant to boost the economy. In this sense, I find really excessive any language referring to currency wars. He believed that both the nominal and real exchange rate of the euro has remained around its long-term average. Concerning economic prospects, Draghi forecast that economic weakness in the early part of 2013 is expected to be followed by a very gradual recovery later in the year, but he warned that considerable further efforts are needed to ensure that Europe continues emerging from the crisis. The Bank of Japan's minutes for the January meeting indicated that a few members were reserved about the upgrades of the Japanese economic outlook. Meanwhile, the Bank of Japan members expressed that extending the maturity of the central bank bond buys was an option. Yet, the minutes were overshadowed by comments from policymakers. Japanese Finance Minister Taro Aso stated that the government has no plan to buy foreign bonds. His comments contradicted with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who reiterated that buying foreign bonds exists as one idea. The next focus is on the upcoming Bank of Japan governor. News headlines stated that Toshiro Muto, a less dovish candidate than Haruko Kuroda or Kazuma Saiwata, is the leading candidate for the post. Abe stressed that he expects the governor to reflect the government's determination to beat deflation. Abe stated that it would be necessary to proceed with revising the Bank of Japan law if the central banks cannot produce results under its own mandate. The Reserve Bank of Australia minutes released in the Asian session unveiled that recent rate cuts have shown effects in boosting the economy, while benign inflation might trigger further rate easing. Regarding developments in China and Japan,